sports powerhouse in the Gulf South. It's all things legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud. Underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. Join us on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870, or connect anytime, anywhere on the Odyssey app. Now, to our Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union studios in the heart of New Orleans, here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, good morning. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. Give us a call at 260-1870 or text us in the Oakland Heart Talk and Text line at 260-1870. Good morning, Albert. I am, for 38 minutes, I was feeling pretty good, or 37 minutes of last night, and then the last 23 minutes were a little rough. But, two schools of thought. You had the game. You had a chance of being 4-0 and being in the driver's seat to make the SEC championship and also get in the college playoffs. But on the other hand, if you look at it from a 30,000-foot view, we just don't have the players to be a great team in the SEC. I think we're good enough to be a 5-3, 6-2 team in the SEC, but we just don't. We're not there yet, and I think the last 23 minutes showed that, especially on the offensive line, the running game. It just sort of manifested, and we beat South Carolina sort of I don't want to say in a fluke, but we should have lost that game. Ole Miss outplayed us, and we did a few things. We're opportunistic at the end to win that, and we were living dangerously, and we were up 17-7, and we didn't deliver the knockout punch. It could have been easily 31-7 at halftime, and it would have been done. And they just didn't do it. I felt very good about Connor Wegman. I mean, I've watched him over the last few years. Started out at Auburn, came over to A&M. I really felt like we could beat him, and I thought he was just an average quarterback with limited mobility. And I felt good about a matchup between Connor Wegman and Nussmeier, but Marcel Smith came out there and they just wasn't ready for him. And they had prepped for Wegman all week, and then Marcel Smith comes out there and just upset. They were unable to make the adjustments quick enough, and that last 23 minutes was brutal. Reed. Yeah.
I did see the horrible last quarter or two, and when you rush, what is it, for 25 yards and you rush it 23 times, you got a problem.
Yes, that's what.
That can beat you with the pass, right? So it's not like they're sending the house because we've got great receivers and a very good quarterback. Then all of a sudden we've got these two offensive tackles that are supposed to be, top 10 picks in the NFL next year. What's going on with that, right? I don't get it. And I think part of the problem is we didn't game plan for
Marcel Reed, yeah.
That came in. I mean, and let me tell you, unless they figure that, RTO out, they're going to have a lot of trouble with Vanderbilt because that's all they do. And, the Vanderbilt might very well beat LSU because they run very much that same type of offense. And their quarterback, I think, is a better passer. Probably not as good a runner, but they better look out. You got Alabama in 2 weeks. You win that game, you get lucky, and Texas loses here and there, and you never know. A&M might lose another one too. So you still have a shot at this point, but I think what you said at the beginning is correct. That we don't have a player, we don't have the defense.
All right.
between A&M and LSU.
Mm-hmm.
So they were definitely fit to win it because you're playing at home, you get a little excitement, and all of a sudden these younger kids, especially the 18, 19-year-olds that are just kind of playing under the lights the first time, it can freak them out. So it's just look, we don't need to panic yet. We only lost one game in the SEC. We went out, which was and you got to sell it out. We looked pretty good yesterday. It starts there. So, come on, Kelly, get your group together, regroup, and game plan, and playing at LSU at home. So here's a good opportunity.
Yeah, I'd say Marcel Smith is Marcel Reed. Well, a couple things. The home crowd was directly responsible for probably that bad snap on the field goal. I think the and we had again a lot of pre-snap penalties, which was probably in part due to the crowd. And I think once that wave got started, the time it just LSU couldn't get its feet back from under them, and you win. The defense is improved, greatly improved. Are they great? No, I think they scheme. The scheme is better, the coaching is better, but they do not have the players that they had. Look at 2019. You look at some of those defensive players; they just don't have those, and uh, they probably have a handful of NFL players, but they're not the type of talent that you need to go through the SEC 7-1. They're just not. And look, I mean, you got Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss. I mean, that's a brutal schedule, and there's a lot of.
A&M played South Carolina that week. We just had at South Carolina, we just had an embarrassing loss to Savannah. Then they play a power spot to Mexico State at home. Then they go play Auburn, who's not very good this year, and they finish up at Texas. I'm sorry, at A&M against Texas. So they clearly run the table. I don't think Texas is as good as everybody thought at the beginning of the year. They almost lost to Vanderbilt yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But A&M's got a good chance to run the table and be in the top four, get that bottom. But if Texas beats them,
somebody has got the lead. That is us. That is you.
Everybody's got one loss, right? So if LSU wins out of A&M, loses to Texas, now Texas has a SEC loss against Bama. We have an SEC loss against A&M, and A&M has an SEC loss against Texas. Who knows? I don't know. Is it best record after that? I don't know.
Well, yeah, a lot has to do what happens in the in the Big Ten. Does Indiana lose? Does does Iowa State? Do they fall out? You just don't know. The problem with LSU right now. Top two. You get the top two, and right.
So we got three teams. Let's say everybody wins out and Texas beats A&M. So Texas has one loss. We have one loss, and A&M has one loss in the SEC. A&M, I think, will go in because they beat us
And Texas. Yeah. Well, it's head to head first.
They beat us, but Texas lost to an Alabama team who would then have two losses. So I don't know. Again, I don't know how they do it. But to me, LSU would go back and play A&M again for the SEC championship.
Basically it'd be head to head first, and then what I would think and I'm not sure, I'd have to check it during a commercial, it would be your record among common opponents. And whoever had the better record would probably go. So there's probably a tiebreaker. There is a tiebreaker scenario that you could probably look up on the SEC website. But I would say first head-to-head, second common opponents would be that, and then they would go down the line as far as maybe even strength of schedule or something to that effect.
It's not unrealistic that Texas could beat A&M.
No.
And if that's the case, Texas would have lost to a lower ranked team in Alabama.
Yeah.
If we beat Alabama and win out,
Right.
A&M wins out, A&M's first, we're second, right? I mean,
Right.
that's the way I look at it. Then Texas would be out since they lost to Alabama because they had 2 losses.
Yeah, I would. Yes, that's correct. And here's the thing that with yesterday's win practically is the practical issue is LSU's was in control of its destiny, yes, before the game. Now we need help. And we have no margin of error. There's no way we could lose another game and be in playoff consideration.
You got to win out. And again, it's not unreasonable that Texas beats Texas A&M. I think A&M's a better team.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for Texas to beat A&M.
Yes. Now here's interesting, like with Nussmeier. In the first half, he was getting into the conversation for the Heisman, threw for 250 yards. They should have been up at least 23-7, possibly 34-7 or 31-7. But it is what it was. And then he went from being in a conversation with the Heisman to being a mid-round draft pick who probably will have to come back next year if he wants to improve his stock. Now, he's got 4 more games, and they're going to look beyond that. But he really, I won't say lost his composure, but he really made some very poor decisions that are not – he's a good college quarterback, but to be elite. And so, and that was this concern with him before, is that when he was under pressure, he rather than just throwing the ball away and live for another day, he would force the passes into coverage and interceptions. He got out of one in South Carolina that might have won the game for South Carolina due to a penalty. Yesterday, I mean, that was just such a turning point in the game yesterday. On the first interception, it was 17-7. Throw it away, punt the ball, let them get the ball around the 30-yard line, and maybe toward the end of the third quarter they get a score at best. But, that just turned the entire game around. Momentum's very interesting too. I mean, I think Tim Tebow said yesterday, momentum's like the wind. You can't see it, but you sure can feel it. And once it turned, it just was it was like a tsunami. You couldn't stop it, and it was just a tale of 2 games. But it was disappointing that you're so close to controlling your own destiny, and that you really had them on the ropes. I mean, you had them on the ropes. They had a standing 8 count, and you couldn't land that punch to knock them out. You couldn't make the field goals. You couldn't, execute the snaps. You couldn't make that last third down conversion. And when you let them off the ropes, that's what happens. And LSU's done that twice this year with USC. You had USC on the ropes in the early fourth quarter, and they let them off. So, what is it now? I'm reading a lot on social media about Brian Kelly's demeanor on the sidelines. Very, he's definitely an old school coach, and he's receiving a lot of sort of like a villainous blowback on social media as far as his coaching style is concerned. And we'll if they win, it works. If I mean, it's not good or bad. It's just the result. The result determines whether it's good or bad. But it's very interesting. You don't see too many coaches like that anymore, for better or for worse. I'm not criticizing it. He just has a different style. Yeah, but let's take a. Yeah. That's what I did some research that would be very interesting to give some perspective on the Saints in the last few years. Probably the second time in 17 years I did some research before we did the show. But I like to take the Dean Martin approach. You should just sort of wing. No, not wing it. No rehearsal. Just go in there. But after the break, we're going to be on till 11 o'clock. So we'll talk a little bit more sports than we normally do, because we're going to be on till leading up to the first take at 11, and they're going to count down the kickoff at 1, and Saints kick off at 3:05 with Mike Hoss and Deuce. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Saints. I did a little interesting research about Dennis Allen's record and last year's team, and just to give a little perspective on where we're going and what's happened in the past. So we're going to take a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
Won't be talking the Saints next segment because we have a caller.
Oh, really? Who is it?
We have James from Mandeville, God's country, calling about a community property and how it works with a deceased spouse. I don't know if it's
I got that. I got you.
I did tell.
Yeah, we tell.
We had a caller.
All right.
I was going to tell you guys during the break. And then you guys said we're going to talk Saints after the next segment. And so I quickly picked the phone up and went, James, don't leave. They don't know you're here. I'm going to tell them you're here, and they'll want to talk to you more than they'll want to talk about the Saints. You got 3 hours. We can talk about the Saints. WL. Hi, this is. We can always circle back.
Yeah, we're going to do that. We'll do that.
You owe money to the IRS. And you were on the money. I think there's a situation, genuinely. You're on the money because it goes head-to-head competition among tie teams. Record versus all common SEC opponents among the tie teams. And then after that, if that's still tied or something like that, it goes record against the highest placed common SEC opponent in the conference standings.
Yes.
Proceeding through SEC championship.
Presentation.com.
Oh, this is simple. I mean, to throw an even bigger weight into it, Tennessee and Georgia play each other.
Oh.
There's a world in which the winner of that game also wins out of the rest of their SEC games, and you don't have Texas A&M.
Right.
LSU, if they win out outright, you don't have. There's a world where you don't have 3 teams that are 4-1 or 5-1. You have 4 teams.
Yes.
Or 6-1.
They're all playing each other in November. So.
Let me Texas beats Texas A&M. If LSU wins out, if Georgia or Tennessee beats the other and they win out, then you will have 4 teams. Because obviously you can't have Georgia has a loss to Tennessee has a loss, so they both can't be a 1 loss. One would have to be a 2 loss.
Yeah.
There's a situation where Texas has 1, Georgia has 1, Texas A&M has 1, LSU has 1, or Tennessee has 1. Near 14 tie. And at that point, I don't know if it goes to LSU.
Well.
How would that work?
Yeah.
I feel like Georgia
You
be in the game.
you might be better off not going to the championship with 2 losses, because you'd only have 2 losses, whereas a team that lost in the SEC championship may have 3.
Yeah, but also but at the same time, if you look at the whole record versus all common SEC opponents among the tie teams,
Yeah.
if Georgia wins out, then the teams they would be tied with they'd be tied with Texas if Texas wins out, but Georgia would have that tiebreaker.
Yeah.
And then Texas would have Texas A&M. If they were to win out, Texas A&M wouldn't have the tiebreaker over any team except for us. So I feel like we would be in, and then it'd be a 3-way tie between Texas to beat Georgia, Texas would beat Texas A&M, Georgia would beat Texas. Does Georgia play Texas A&M? I don't think they do. They don't.
No.
And then Georgia would have a tiebreaker over Texas. Texas would have a tiebreaker over Texas A&M. Texas A&M would have a tiebreaker over LSU, but not over the other two. Which at that point, I think because A&M doesn't have the tiebreaker over the other two teams standing, we lose, they lose, and the SEC game is a rematch of Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Co-founder of Angie. But I don't know. That might not be how it works. You know all your jobs.
Well, they're going to all be playing each other, so there's going to be a lot of attrition. Who's on the phone? Who's on the phone? Hey, Colin.
If you're still waiting for it,
Who's on the phone?
Again, James from Mandeville.
98% of the psychics who apply to work first, so we only connect you.
We also have a text.
I saw that.
We've got some sports text we can serve back.
Yeah.
One right off the jump was simply, can you get a divorce online if each person agrees and doesn't want anything from each other?
No.
I don't think so.
It's the joy of certainty. At California Psychics,
Not in the United States.
For all things legal,
Not at the same place you can get married in Vegas.
No.
all advice given in opinion shared are solely those of attorneys Albert Nicaud or UWL.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. Couple things. First of all, we said we would talk about the Saints this segment, but we have James and Mandeville we're going to pick up. Also, for the SEC championship, there's going to be a lot of attrition in the next 4 or 5 weeks because a lot of the top teams are going to be playing each other. So there's a lot can happen. We just have zero margin for error. Okay, let's go to James in Mandeville. He's got a question regarding community property. Hey, James, you're on All Things Legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate that.
All right. What you got for us, James?
My question is concerning community property. My wife died a little over a year ago without a will,
Mm-hmm.
and I was one of those geniuses who moved from another state and assumed that survivorship was automatic. I've been told that is not true, that our two heirs actually own her half of our assets.
Okay.
And now, is that true exactly, and how far does it extend?
Where was your mother? Where was your wife domiciled when she died? Where did she live?
In Mandeville.
Okay, she lived in Mandeville, and she died without a will. Okay, y'all was still married.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, there's something called as far as the community is concerned, you get your half of the community. You get 50%, and the other 50% you have a usufruct over, meaning that you have use of it upon remarriage or in case of your house until you would sell your house. So it's called an 890 usufruct. So basically, let's say, I'm going to make it simplistic. You got a $500,000 community property, $250,000 is yours, value of $250,000 is your wife's. You got yours out right. You have a usufruct over your wife's portion. Now let's talk about the house. You got use of your wife's portion of the house until remarriage or until you sell the property. So if you ever sell the house, the usufruct would come off. Your children would have to sign off on it, and they would get your mother's half or your wife's half. So that's, and now as far as you'd have a usufruct over, I guess, the money and movables of your wife's portion of the house. Like, for example, your kitchen table is half yours, half you, subject to a usufruct. You get to use the whole thing. Now, as far as bank accounts, that's a little more sticky. If you have a $100,000 bank account, technically, 50,000 of it's yours, 50,000 of it's your wife's. But you can any interest that derives from that, you would be entitled to it. But the principal would be your children would be entitled to it upon your death, that $50,000. So, yes, sir. Yeah, day to death balance. Now, I mean, here's the kicker. I mean, this is sort of practicality. If you start dipping into your wife's portion, are your kids going to sue you? Or are they going to, are they going to ask you to post a bond or what have you? Now, typically that happens, but the children might say, "Hey, that's mom and dad's. We're going to we're not going to make an issue of it. It's not ours." And the kids would get whatever's left over when you're gone. So, but from a technical standpoint, yeah, Albert.
Well, I was going to say that the word usufruct, the combination of two words, actually, it's the Latin term, it's usus and suffix.
Alright, so real quick, he dropped, and we can still,
Okay.
Property, you can, keep the rent, keep it up. There are a lot of rules about what the usufructuary has to pay for in terms of maintenance versus what the naked owner, that's what your children would be called naked owners, because they have ownership, but they don't have the right to use it, and they don't have the right to any fruits, meaning, investment income, that sort of stuff. What happens is you'll
I got things back.
right, at the end of the document that is the source
I got James back, by the way. He dropped it all right. He doesn't know.
is per estate. And so the net value of that estate, let's say it's $250,000. So you can go on about your life, do whatever you have to do, but at the end of the day, you have to at least leave your children $250,000 assets. And so, that's the only issue you have to deal with. You can kind of do whatever you want. Now, in terms of the real estate, like I said, technically, your kids would have to sign off on any transfers or whatever if you decide to sell it. Which is another reason why people want to come in or should come in and execute a will, because if they want to leave a usufruct to their life, they can leave it for life instead of to be married, and they can also allow the spouse to sell the family home without the permission of the naked owners of the children, and then to take those funds and which will remain in usufruct, but just take those funds and purchase a different home with it. They can sell and movables, sell immovable real estate. So the will will help provide that, facilitate that. But look, technically everything Jeff said is correct and everything, but at the end of the day, are your kids really gonna even know about it? First of all, if you can pay enough, hey, look, this is the deal. And how old are your children, by the way? They're in their 40s. Oh wow, yeah. So
I've got one of them that doesn't need a penny. The other one I was going to try and, in my will, leave everything to one and not to another, since one doesn't need it and one does.
Well, yeah.
I would discuss that with the one who doesn't need it, and just explain your
Rationale.
so there's no hard feelings that he was there, he left me out as well. He must love one more than me, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty obvious situation. He's quite wealthy, whereas the other one is not.
Yeah. Well, I think what Albert's saying. I mean, we encounter this, at times that even if you have the quote, wealthy one, it's a good idea to discuss that in advance so the expectations are aligned when that day comes, and just so that they know it's not from a personal perspective, emotional personal perspective. It's just very pragmatic. But sure.
I have a car in both of our names. Can I sell that?
Here's what I would suggest you do. I would open the succession and ask the children to grant you approval.
We're not hurting for time. We could probably take a break after this guy and come back.
so just, a consent form that they will sign saying we consent that my father will be the independent executor or independent administrator of the estate, and that he will have the right to do X, Y, Z. And then you will be able to show that document. You'll get letters of administration, independent administration from the court, and you'll be able to show that document to banks, insurance companies, investments, et cetera, and you'll have authority to take care of all that business.
I see, and until I do that, I can't sell the vehicle that's in
Well, you can also.
Which you can go to Fastlane, fastlane.com. It's basically Louisiana's Office of Motor Vehicle.
Yeah.
And there's an affidavit form. And on the affidavit form, you can have the vehicle transferred to your name with the consent of your children. And so just get all three of them to sign this form and send it into the state, and the vehicle can transfer to your name and sell it to whoever you want.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay, good.
All right.
I think I understand. So the house is really the problem.
Well, if
Because no one's going to sue me over a bank account or anything
right.
like that.
Well, you just got to get approval of your kids if you ever want to sell it.
Right. That's it.
And then when you sell it, you can prevail on them to say, "Hey, let me keep the money," instead of having it go to you on your wife's portion of the house.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of children will do that. I would say most probably would. So, but it is sort of it could be an awkward conversation.
You're right. Exactly.
Or
All right. The call had dropped out, so I actually missed a little portion of that. How do I open succession?
Well, you contact the attorney, and the attorney will file the paperwork for you. It's something we get regularly. And I don't make that when you want to sign off on it. And it's just look, if it's what we call a spouse in a house, with maybe some investments, it's a pretty easy thing to do. And then we can document what the estate would be for her, and what the value of that use of trust would be for the children.
Right. Okay, great. Well, I think that answers my question.
all right, thanks for calling, Jane. Hey, Albert, I was pretty impressed with your knowledge of Latin, with usa and a fruct. Was that St. Paul? Because the reason it piqued my interest, and I'm probably going to get in a lot of trouble for saying this, the last D I received in a class was a De La Salle in 8th grade because my parents prevailed on me to take Latin instead of Spanish. Well, the only problem was, and my Latin teacher had just immigrated from China. So yes. And so I can say this, he's not around anymore, so I can talk behind his back. But so I had someone who just immigrated from Asia teaching me Latin, who did not exactly have command of the English language. In fact, I would say he had very little command of the English language. So I think I always wanted to put a little asterisk. I wanted to put a little asterisk on my transcripts explaining that, so that if I was ever evaluated on that, so I'm just coming clean with that. So if I wish I would have known a little more Latin, so I could have given that explanation. All right, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out. Yeah, that's good. He's good. That's a very good caller.
Like, you got questions, you've got an issue. It is both one of the bill in some parts and other parts. It's like, what about this guy? No, that is
informative Monday through Friday, 6 till 10 a.m. right here on WWLAMFM.com and the Odyssey app. This is the commercial.
We'll probably do Saints on the top of the hour next hour.
That's fine with me.
Because I'm a
Saints next hour and then
Pelican. That's right. I'm gonna I'm going to sort of elaborate on this issue.
That's not bad. That's not bad. That's what I like to do. Because when I do the podcasting, I upload the full hour, but the segments that I do, I like to have the segments also. To have the sports stuff in the full hour.
Mhm.
Because we are a legal show first, then a sports show.
Right,
So I
right.
try to highlight the legal stuff.
We like to weave sports in so people will listen.
We weave it in. That's not the main focus, but we weave it in. We weave it in. Are you watching Tokyo tonight?
You know, I don't have.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if like Pluto TV or some other app has it.
I don't know, like, whatever TV I have in my room has it. It took me, I will say it took me like 20 minutes to find it the other day, but I just followed the surf until I got it.
We have a TV outside that has antenna. Yeah, I know.
Resolution, bringing it up. One-stop shop to help settle your back tax, levy, or garnishments. I mean, worst case scenario, you can always listen to the game on AM 870.
Yeah, no, I know. I love Todd Graffinino. I know. I was thinking about calling him, having him on for a half an hour, but he's just because we had to feel yeah. I got inducted into the Hall of Fame with his brother at De La Salle. At my high school, I know.
The NBA is back, and FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, wants you to catch all the action. Because right now, FanDuel is giving all users 3 months of NBA League Pass. All you have to do to catch every tip-off and buzzer beater is place any $5 bet on the NBA. What I'm looking forward to is Victor Wembanyama in San Antonio, what he's going to do. And I don't know, I want to see if the Celtics going to repeat. So that'll be interesting. So if you're new to FanDuel, just visit FanDuel.com/Hebert. That's HEBERT to get 3 months of the NBA League Pass, courtesy of FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA and WWL Radio.
21 plus and present in Louisiana. Permitted parishes only. After 3 month free trial, the full price of League Pass will be automatically charged monthly. Cancel anytime. No refunds. Terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. Limit 1 pass per customer. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-7867.
Are you a business owner doing your own bookkeeping? Why? It makes no sense, literally. Focus on what you do well, like growing your business. And let Accounting Services Unlimited handle your bookkeeping. Hi, this is Thomas Fonte. Accounting Services Unlimited is insanely affordable and will come to you. Go for a free quote. Accounting Services Unlimited. 514-717-6253. That's 717. You liking the work here you did a lot?
A little bit. I sort of like the Yankees, but I thought the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers. I thought they were going to win. Yeah. Designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they we'll go to this segment talking about wills, and then we'll have we'll have a minute or two on the last segment and go out. Consumers owning at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the relief hotline at 800-525-8448. 800-525-8448. 800-525-8448. Yeah.
All things legal with Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on WWL and Odyssey Station. Connect now on the Oakland Art Jewelers Talking Text Line, 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. We're back to the great Frank Sinatra. That's life. Who is that? Late 50s, Colin? That's all me. Yes. I like, now, I was talking about my alma mater. All right. We had our fundraiser at the time we were there was, I think, who is it? Harris. He was an actor. He was in Tiger, one of the Walt Disney movies. Phil Harris. It was his son-in-law. Yes. I think he was King of Bacchus the second year, if I'm not mistaken. Second year. And Phil Harris is what we used to get at De La Salle. Our fundraisers used to be done by Frank Sinatra to raise money for the school, which is almost as good is probably better, as good as having Harry Connick raise money for Jesuit. And so I was always a fan of Frank Sinatra from the very beginning. But okay, Albert, let's do this. I want to talk about wills a little bit. A lot of times when people talk about wills and they say, look, I just want to give everything to my spouse and not do a usufruct. What is the advantages and disadvantages of saying, hey, I want to give everything to my spouse versus giving them a usufruct in a will?
Well, so, you're on the risk, especially, look, if you're in your 70s, 60s, 70s, you've been married to the same wife for however many years. You could leave everything to that spouse, and it's not that big of a deal. It makes probably life a lot easier. But as a younger divorcee, or somebody who's married and maybe may get divorced at some point, or the spouse may pass away at a younger age, and you may be looking to remarry. What this does, and I always kind of make the joke when a couple comes in that, what if she hooks up with the Chippendale dancer, after you die, right? And now all of a sudden, he swoons her and convinces her to go ahead and change her will, or he hooks up with a young girl, and he decides to leave everything to her. Well, what happens is you've left everything to your spouse, and now your spouse can leave 100% of his or her assets to a third party, or to one child over the other. This way, if you leave a naked ownership usufruct situation, when you leave everything to your children, then you end up guaranteeing that at least your half at some point will go to those children. So, I mean, that's one of the things, in terms of a will, you can confirm that usufruct for life. So if you're, if the person does remarry, whether the husband or wife, you don't want them, for instance, to be kicked out of the house, or to have to, turn over half of the possessions, et cetera, at that point, not make the interest on, or if there's rental property, forced to sell it to, or pay half the income to the children, et cetera. So I mean, there are a number of reasons why you want to do that. But it's a good situation, I think. And again, it's the only thing subject to usufruct also, which is why you might want to will, is the community property, right? Mm-hmm. So if there's an 890 usufruct, a separate property, if you inherited $1 million and you kept it separate, and you and your spouse have $1 million between the two of you, if you have a will, then your spouse only will come into half of the community property, and the separate property will go to your children without a will. So those are the things you need to kind of consider if you want, your separate property to go to wife share of that, if you don't have usufruct of the income.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that you need to think about when it comes to that. I want to tell you, in terms of wills, married couples with no children, it gets very complicated. Same-sex couples, even people long-time living, that have purchased property together and done all these sorts of things. Hey, look, it's been my house forever. He's helped pay the rent, and now all of a sudden I die, and he's in the house, and my siblings and my whoever want him out because he has no ownership in it.
Yep.
Or vice things you need to consider if you want to make considerations. Even if it's a use of trust, let him live there until he dies, and then kids him.
Right.
So, however you want to arrange it. But there are a lot of things to consider. A lot more so with the non-traditional family or families without children. Because if you leave everything to one spouse who has no children, that spouse dies with no will, and all of a sudden, his family gets there.
There you go.
And your family gets there.
All right. All right, let's go to a break. I hear Lloyd Price and Stagger Lee. So let's take a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. We'll be right back after this brief timeout. All right, we'll get in and out this one. No, I mean, you give us 45 seconds. Okay, that's over.
I did tell him that we're on till 11, so if he's got to call us back later, he can. And then more importantly, if we aren't able to do him, he can text us and we'll see it that way.
Okay. Okay.
But this segment will be quick.
I mean, yeah, just you can keep. I mean, I just need 40 seconds.
No. Let me do the math.
Okay. I don't. Yeah.
Call Tax Relief Helpers now to hear about our tax debt reduction programs. If you're facing liens, levies, an audit, wage garnishment, or already in a payment plan, we still can help you. You may qualify to have your tax debt settled for a mere fraction of what you owe, or for other
50, we're up to hit 56. Dude, you have like 25 seconds.
That's fine. That's all I need.
If you or your business owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands to the IRS, you don't have to be afraid anymore. Call our relief hotline now to see what savings you may qualify for at 800-373-0322. 800-373-0322. Once again, that's 800-373-0322.
If you ever have any problems with your AC or heating, you want someone there to help right away. Take it from me, Paul LaGrange, host of the Home Improvement Show. When it comes to repair, you can trust in Burkhardt and Air Conditioning and Heating. Burkhardt provides repairs for any brand of cooling and heating system, and you can call them anytime.
I would say, let me double check, but I'm pretty certain that if you wanted to mention the Pels game later,
Yeah.
I think you have to, or you only mention it.
Okay. I have the thing.
I'm double checking.
I have the sheet. Call sheet.
Yeah, it'll, so pregame 4:30, tip off 5 on 8:70 a.m.
Yeah.
The survey takes less than 10 minutes, but can improve health outcomes for a lifetime. Visit UnitedWaySELA.org to learn more.
Oh, you don't have to. There's probably too little time for a week here, maybe retirement.
No. I'm gonna do that.
Your day, though?
Huh?
Are you gonna get off here and watch the Saints game and then watch the game?
Yeah. I'll go outside.
Dude, I look. There is a lot of bad games. There are. We talked about this we had a betting guy on Wednesday for a segment for Sports Talk. There was, as of Wednesday, 3 NFL games where a team was favored by 10 points.
Yeah, I know.
Cherish moments like your wedding.
We prepared for a lot of blowouts today.
Who lost?
There was a third game that was like 9.5. It was 2.
Box protects your irreplaceable memories.
There isn't like a good.
This.
Like Eagles Bengals is like the only one I can think of.
Right.
Well, the Falcons and the Bucks play at noon, so maybe that one. But I think the Falcons are gonna run with it considering the Bucks are so.
Trusted by over 1 million families. Send Legacy Box your home movies, photos, and film. Their team of trained professionals will do the rest right here in the U.S. For a limited time, Legacy Box is offering radio listeners an incredible 50% off. Go to legacybox.com/value and save 50% when you digitize your memories. That's legacybox.com/value.
You love your city, but let's be honest, the commute, not so much. That's where the free Odyssey app can help.
I kept you down.
Yeah, and follow your
Okay.
Panic.
No, I know.
I would tell you that before, but you usually have more time than.
Right.
To think about the essential things like, do I have time to get camera? Search your local news station. That's
Hey, we're back. Ran long, last segment. We're on till 11 o'clock till today, leading into first countdown to kickoff, first take. So stay tuned. We're going to national news, local news, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes and all things legal. So stay tuned for hour number 2 out of 3. So we'll see you in 10. All right.
News Talk Sports Powerhouse, 870 AM WWL New Orleans, 105.3 WWL FM at HD1 Canada New Orleans, and Odyssey Station. This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Stacey Lynn. 9 days until Election Day, and while the latest CBS News poll shows an essential tie, Deputy Director of Surveys Jennifer DePinto tells us
men and women have some different views on the candidates themselves. 55% of women think Kamala Harris would be a strong leader, compared to just 45% of men who think so. And most men, 64% of them, think Donald Trump would be a strong leader, compared to 50% of women. And on having the cognitive health to serve as president, women are 10 points more likely than men to say that only Kamala Harris has cognitive health and that Trump does not.
Out on the campaign trail today, Harris is in Pennsylvania. Trump will be in New York for a rally at Madison Square Garden. Both presidential candidates were in the battleground state of Michigan yesterday, and the vice president got a big push from former First Lady Michelle Obama, who said former President Trump has
No understanding of policy, no ability to put together a coherent argument, no honesty, no decency, no morals.
You're not going to destroy our nation. Kamala Harris, you're fired.
The Trump campaign also made a stop in Pennsylvania yesterday.
I think we're going to win the state, but I think Pennsylvanians, Republicans, Democrats, Independents should have confidence in the elections here.
That's J.D. Vance on CBS's Face the Nation. A pivotal election's taking place in the country of Georgia as well, with early voting results showing the ruling party has won. Here's the BBC's Steve Rosenberg.
Georgia Dream's critics accuse the party of wanting to move Georgia away from the West and closer to Russia.
Reporter Catherine Arms tells us a high-profile sexual assault case gets underway tomorrow in France.
French actor Gerard Depardieu is on trial for alleged sexual assaults against 2 women, one on a film set in 2021 and the other at his home in 2018. The 75-year-old is one of France's top stars. He faces accusations from 13 women who say he committed rape, sexual assault, and inappropriate behavior. He denies all claims. He is the most famous figure in France to face sexual misconduct charges in the French version of the Me Too movement.
During the World Series last night, Dodger star Shohei Ohtani partially dislocated his shoulder. Manager Dave Roberts.
So we're going to get some tests, and then we'll know more in the next couple of days.
Dodgers are up 2-0. Game 3 will be played in New York tonight. In honor of the days your mom made you wear a jacket over your Halloween costume, a study by Climate Central found October nights have warmed up. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Buying a home is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. Before you tour a home, the real estate professional you're working with may ask you to sign a buyer's agreement, which describes the services you'll receive, each party's role and responsibilities, and how your agent will be compensated, all of which you'll want to discuss with them up front. So work with an agent who's a realtor. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors, with a duty to honestly represent you and put your interests above their own, because that's who we are.
Paul's new drone startup just lost its most genius computer scientist.
We just lost our best genius to some new genius who's got a genius new idea. I'm going to have to find a new genius, or 2 half geniuses, and back.
He needs a computer scientist that can keep his startup from falling down.
I need it.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
WWL First News, good morning. I'm Courtney Queen on your official weather station.
station, WWL.
Sunday will be gorgeous once again on both sides of Lake Pontchartrain. Will remain in the 80s with 50s to 60s overnight Monday. Into the week, we do see a warming trend with additional humidity building in again by Halloween. No concerns for anything in the tropics developing anytime soon.
WWL TV meteorologist Brooke Laser has a full look at the forecast in just a few minutes. Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office is investigating a double shooting that occurred this morning in Jefferson. One victim was pronounced dead on the scene, and the others in stable condition at a local hospital. At around 3:30 a.m., deputies responded to a resident in the 300 block of Brooklyn Avenue. After receiving multiple 911 calls, the victims, both adult males, were located inside of the residence and appeared to be suffering from gunshot wounds. There is no suspect or motive information to share at this time. Anyone with information is asked to call Jefferson Parish Homicide Division or contact Crime Stoppers. A New Orleans broadcasting legend has died. Eric Paulson started WWL from early morning eyewitness news in the late 70s. On the investment relationship with the city of New Orleans, its people and culture lasted over 4 decades. Paulson left the news desk about a month ago after announcing he'd been leaving to treat an aggressive form of cancer diagnosis. Word of his passing spread quickly over the weekend. Eric Paulson was 74 years old. Here's WWL Sports with Charlie Long.
This WWL Sports Update is brought to you by People's Health. Texas A&M handed LSU their first conference loss last night in College Station in a 38-23 beatdown, which was highlighted by mistakes from LSU special teams and offense and their inability to stop the run on defense. Tigers finished with just 24 rushing yards on 23 attempts, while the Aggies had 242 rushing yards on 49 carries. After entering halftime with a 17-7 lead, the Bayou Bengals were outscored 31-6 in the second half at Kyle Field. With the loss, the Tigers dropped to 6-2 overall and 3-1 in SEC play. Up next, they have a bye week before hosting Alabama on November 9th. And today, the Saints will look to end their 5-game losing skid with a battle of the 3-3 Chargers in Los Angeles. What should Black and Gold fans expect from the Chargers? LA has a top 10 rushing, passing, and total defense, and they're number 1 in the league in scoring defense at 13.8 points per game. On their side, their offense has struggled at times this year with only 9 total touchdowns in 6 games. But a major strength on that side of the ball is their offensive line, with its rookie offensive tackle Joe Alt over LSU wide receiver Malik Neighbors in the 2024 draft. Left tackle Rashawn Slater, Matt Money Smith, the voice of the Chargers, after the Saints not able to get pressure up the middle today. The Chargers are confident in their focus tackles keeping strong quarterback Herbert upright.
Yeah.
We still have Bill from Ponchatoula. He held on.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
And then he also, he drives through a dead zone and he hits it. He also texted in, but I told him to stay on phone because we like to,
Okay. Yeah.
more often than not, Bill brings something up and we'll ask him.
Okay.
As well to kind of chill in dialogue.
Gotcha. Okay. How much you got? About a minute and a half?
You got about a minute and a half to.
Yeah. Okay.
Defensive line getting pressure on Herbert. But the only for the flexible edge rushers this afternoon. Kickoff between the Chargers and Saints is at 3 o'clock, and the countdown to kickoff featuring Bobby Hebert and Steve Gellers at 1 p.m. right here on WWL. Hopping to some basketball action. After the Pelicans picked up a massive comfort behind 105-103 win in Portland on Friday, they now look for the doubleheader sweep with the Trailblazers tonight. Tip-off is at 5 o'clock, and pregame starts at 4:30 p.m. on the home of the Pelicans, WWL 870 AM. WWL Sports.
You can also catch wall-to-wall coverage of the Saints and Chargers on 105.3 FM and WWL.com. Now to your Sunday forecast.
Enjoy the gorgeous forecast for Sunday on both sides of the lake as temperatures rise out of the 70s until down around 85. Once more, we'll see a quiet forecast for the next few days with humidity building in again and the concern for some fog development each and every morning. Once we head into the middle of the week, expect a little more warmth by Halloween as well. That'll stick with us into the weekend. We do see temperatures fall off just a couple degrees, but we'll stay well above average for late October to early November. No concern in the tropics. For WWL News, I'm meteorologist.
So we got from Ponchatoula. Who do we have?
From WWL, Big News Talk Sports Powerhouse of the Gulf South. It's all things legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud. Underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. Join us on Brooklyn Art Jewelers Talk and Text Line 504-260-1870.
Again, Bill.
Bill.
Power of attorney.
Financial Federal Credit Union Studios in the heart of New Orleans. Here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, we're back. Hour number 2. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We're on till 11 o'clock today. We got leading into the Saints pregame coverage, first take. And then we got countdown to kick off at 1 o'clock and the Saints at 3. And at 4:30, you have the Pelicans on AM, 870 AM. The Saints game will continue on 105.3 FM. So if you got Saints and Pelicans playing at the same time. So if you want to listen to the Pelicans, 870 AM, Saints 105.3 FM, and you can also go on the Odyssey app. So it's a good day if the Saints aren't starting quick. You can flip over to the Pelicans, who are playing the Portland Trail Blazers. So there we go. Got a good Sunday afternoon of New Orleans sports, and let's go to. We got Bill on the phone line from Ponchatoula. Bill's got a question, I think, about power of attorneys. Hey, Bill, you on All Things Legal. What can we do for you?
Hello. I have a power of attorney probably written 12, 13 years ago from my father, written in Louisiana, has witness signature, has the notary signature and license number, but there's no imprint seal of the notary on the form. Is that a problem?
No.
No.
There's no law requiring a seal. Certain banks and institutions and brokerage companies, things like that, might want a seal, a notary seal, but as long as you have the notary's name that's printed, so they can identify who the notary is, they've got a license number.
Now, what you could do is the notary still around? Do you know that?
I don't know. I haven't tried to contact.
Because if there is a problem, what you could do is have the notary just write a certification that that's his, or if he's got a seal, he could seal it. Sometimes, yeah, right, yes, yeah, something like that. And no, I know. I was just referring to your terminology of squeezing it, Albert. It's a Sunday morning show, so we're just trying to keep it clean here.
He called me up, we were chatting. I said, "Oh, you need me to notarize stuff?" He said, "No, I got it." Somebody asked me, he goes, "Yeah," he said, I just used the bottom of a Budweiser bottle and it worked out great."
Okay. So, yeah. So.
One of the questions about that, if and when I go and do business in my mother's name, I would just bring that paper along with me. As far as I want to.
Yeah. Now, one thing the banks may do, if it's a financial institution, if the power of attorney is 13 years old, they may want it up a certification that it's still in a full force and effect. In other words, sometimes they get concerned because if you have an old power of attorney, if they had a new one, they would have no way of knowing if a new one was done or was revoked. So you might have that. Also, too, you may want to file that with the mortgage and conveyance records because that'll give notice to third parties. And also, if you do file it, that will give that would be sufficient for financial institutions to indicate that there's no other power of attorneys that have trumped that. All right, Bill. Thanks so much for the call. All right. Yes, power. I guess we'll sort of go on this. Power of attorneys are probably very valuable tools, especially when you get a little bit older. Remember the old commercials, and Cullen's going to have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm going to age myself. But they used to have the commercials about the Fram oil filter, where the guy was under the car, it was on the rack, and they'd tell you to change your oil filter because he says, you can pay me now, $4, or you can pay me later, $400 to redo your engine. And he would always say, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. And I always think about power of attorneys when in connection with that concept, because a lot of times you might have two spouses who've been married for a long time, and one spouse gets dementia or they have a stroke and they're not verbal, they can't take care of themselves, need some type of help. Powers of attorney, thank you. And would I guess if you don't have powers of attorney and you have a spouse or a family member that becomes incapacitated, then your only remedy to exert some control over their estate to administer it would be an interdiction. And interdiction proceeding is a very involved proceeding that is very, very expensive. And basically, in an interdiction proceeding, you have to go to court to get an adjudication that this person is able to exercise authority, be the legal representative of someone else's estate because they can't handle it themselves. And those proceedings, you're not going to get out of those for less than $5,000 if it's uncontested. It's going to be a lot more if it's contested. Whereas a power of attorney is just simply signing a legal document saying that whereby you appoint an agent to exercise authority over your estate in case you're unable to make decisions about your own estate. But power of attorneys are something that's a necessity. And Albert, you say this often, that it's probably as important as having a will.
I agree. And I do because, if you pass away, there are laws that are tested between laws that take effect by operation of law. The deceased person does not have a will. So, and it's relatively fair. I mean, there are things you might want to change that we can correct. But in terms of the power of attorney, Doug is right. I need to handle affairs for my mom. She's in the hospital. She doesn't have the capacity to make those decisions on her own. And unfortunately, my answer is, well, then she doesn't have the capacity to execute a power of attorney. That's something that you should get taken care of for any older relative, family member, etc. And even not so much older. You see people that have unfortunate incidents where they become disabled in some respects, or just have the ability to handle their own affairs somehow. And you would need that documentation. So what I typically do when I prepare one, I will keep the original, and I have a true copy stamp, and I this is a true copy of the originals at my office. And that way, if they need 4 or 5 more, they can come back to my office.
Test.
And have the original, so
Test.
2 more copies for them, and the banks and the insurance companies and the IRS and everyone else will accept that true copy certified by the notary.
Yeah. So it's just, we've had a lot of several situations where you had husband and wife that have been married for 55 years, a long time. Wife has spouse has a dementia, and then all of a sudden that spouse can't sell the house, can't access certain financial accounts, can't access some legal documents because the spouse who's afflicted is unable to do so. And if you had a power of attorney, you could simply just present the power of attorney at a closing or to a financial institution, or in order to conduct transactions. But what happens is when you do an interdiction, it's it's an expensive process. And if you don't have a power of attorney, you have to do an interdiction. And basically what happens is you have to file a petition for interdiction. then you have to pay extra money to the court because you have to pay a attorney or curator to represent the interest of the person who's being interdicted. And then often, if it's a situation where there's a question as to whether they could handle their own affairs or not, the court may appoint a geriatric physician, a geriatric neurologist, or some type of physician to do an assessment as to whether they can handle make their own decisions. So that's another expense that has to be incurred. And so when you and also too, you have to have a trial. Yeah.
Yeah, quite often you have a situation where the person that you are trying to interdict doesn't want to be interdicted. They still think. But a lot of people don't want to lose their independence, and their dementia has them believing that they can, in fact, thrive, and handle their own affairs. I'm sure people have been through this, and if there is a power of attorney voluntarily given by that person, then you have that authority at that point to handle those situations. With all the privacy laws everywhere. In terms of healthcare documents, it's a problem when you, especially as a child and a parent, you are trying to get those documents, or just to kind of help your parent out in making the right decisions for them. It makes your life so much easier to have that authority to a power of attorney to handle all those things. They're very comprehensive. And the durable power of attorney, you might have heard that term. Durable just means that, listen, I'm giving you this authority during my lifetime and during my mental stability. But in the event that I get to the point where I lose my capacity, this power of attorney continues on beyond that, and it is, you still will have those same rights. You don't have to come in and determine my ability to make my own decisions. I'm giving this authority now. And so, it is a durable power of attorney, and it extends beyond the incapacity of the person signing that authority.
Now, if you have powers of attorney and you have an older one, you may want to check it because sometimes the information in the powers of attorney are a little skinny. Meaning, let's say you would bring an old powers of attorney to a bank, and you say, "I'd like to do this on behalf of my spouse. I'd like to conduct some transactions." They're going to look at the powers of attorney document and see, does that give you the authority to do so? And we sort of, when we do powers of attorney, we call it like a kitchen sink powers of attorney. We sort of put everything under the sun in there so that if you present a document under a certain circumstance, whether it be for revenues for oil, for cutting down timber, whatever scenario you have, conduct sale of real estate, sale of rental property, bank boxes, right. So that when the bureaucrat or the financial institution looks at it and they say, okay, it says that it can be done in this particular document. It's clearly stated. They don't have any heartburn from doing that, because one of the things that the banks are worried about, financial institution, is fraud. There is more cases of financial exploitation of the elderly than there is child abuse every year now because of the baby boomers coming to age. So they want to make sure that the I's dotted and T's are crossed, and they want to make sure that the powers of attorney document that is presented to them, that it will be that it contains the authority to conduct the transaction that you want to conduct. So basically, also, if you do have powers of attorney, maybe if they're 10, 15 years old, you may want to take a look at it to make sure that it's comprehensive enough to conduct the transactions that you would want to use it for, and that it's not limited in some form or fashion.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's just something that every couple should have, and we always put a
And also, too, if it's a situation that's irreversible, such as, maybe, Alzheimer's or some kind of condition that is progressive, it might be a good idea to file it with the mortgage and conveyance records, because if you do that, then you're sort of covered with financial institutions. The clerk of court, the clerk of court.
Third parties can rely on that.
Yes.
And that, hey, look, this is recorded, and so I'm going by the public records, and that says that you have that power. And so it gives them a little bit of a safe harbor when they start acting under that power of attorney.
Right. So basically, like Albert said, power of attorney is a very, very as important as wills, and you can save a lot of money. And going back to that old Fram oil filter commercial, you can pay me now, pay me later. You can pay me. The cost of power of attorney is probably 5 or 10% of what an interdiction would cost, or maybe even less, because I've had interdictions that have gone. I always tell people you'll never get out of an interdiction for less than $5,000, and about $3,000 or $2,000, $2,500 is court costs, paying for the other curator, and it's just out of pocket costs. So it's not even the attorney's fees that you're paying, and if it's contested, because if you don't, also what happens if let's say you have mom's gone or dad's gone, you just have one parent left, and you don't have a power of attorney. Then and then the remaining spouse or parent that's left, their estate needs to be administered, and you have a disagreement among the children on who's going to be the agent. Then often there's contests as who should be appointed, and those contests are often very contentious, and they cause a lot of family strife, and it goes way beyond the years after the situation is resolved. And so the principal, who would be the parent, if he can appoint who he wants to be in charge, so that if they're not in a situation where if something happens to him, there's not going to be a contest as who's going to take over, and especially if there's some issues among siblings, and just different philosophical ideas on how to deal with, mom and dad's estate, that would save a lot of money also. So there's a couple of little different dimensions where a power of attorney would be very, very helpful to avoid litigation. So, all right, so let's go to a break. It's Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your Weekend Lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout. Bee Gees. We got callers? Okay.
Battle the Chargers today in Los Angeles. Game day starts at 11 a.m. Join Team WWL at Ross's Market and Metairie on Power Boulevard. First up, First Take with Steve Geller and Charlie Long, followed by Bobby Hebert with the Bud Light countdown to kickoff. Game time with Deuce and Haas is 3 o'clock. After the game is sound off on the Ciroc Point After with the Cajun Cannon. Saints Chargers today on WWL and the free Odyssey app.
Is the IRS on your back? Hi, this is Caitlin with Go Tax Resolution. If you've received a letter from the IRS or state demanding payment for back taxes, give the pros at Go Tax Resolution a call. Our team of former IRS agents and passionate resolution specialists will get to work right away. Owing the IRS can be scary, but you don't have to do it alone. Give us a call today at 985-722-1040 and let us give you peace of mind. Or go online to gotaxresolution.com. That's GEAUX taxresolution.com.
Hi, I'm Sam with Go Tax Resolution. Some claims for the Employee Retention Tax Credit will expire this year. Now is the time to call and see if you qualify. Call Go Tax Resolution at 985-722-1040 before they expire. The Employee Retention Tax Credit is a refund that businesses may qualify for if they maintain their employees during the pandemic. Some credits will expire this year. Contact Go Tax Resolution at 985-722-1040 or gotaxresolution.com. That's GEAUX, taxresolution.com.
At Duplessis Builders, we know getting a pool is a big commitment. We believe our pool owners deserve extra customer service, extra attention to detail, and an extra 9 years on their warranty compared to the industry standards for an extraordinary pool in your backyard. For details, go to duplessisbuilders.net. Look through our extensive gallery of high-end pools. Then get your free quote. That's duplessisbuilders.net. Anybody can build an average pool. At Duplessis Builders, we build extraordinary pools. Get your extra today.
Are you a business owner doing your own bookkeeping? Why? It makes no sense, literally. Focus on what you do well, like growing your business, and let Accounting Services Unlimited handle your bookkeeping. Hi, this is Thomas Fontes. Accounting Services Unlimited is insanely affordable and will come to you. Call for a free quote. Accounting Services Unlimited, 504-717-6253. That's 717-6253. Or visit us at asu-llc.com.
One of the most common injuries resulting from a car accident is a back injury. Just last week, it happened to you. Your injury has made life difficult and you can't escape the pain. Take it seriously. Get the help you need right now. Demand daily devotion. Call 444-4444. Check into that bridge. LA-2416-605.
Saturday morning, start your day off with Game Guild in the Garden. You good? Saturdays from 9 to 11 a.m. Brought to you by Banting Accessory. Trusted since 1926 for all your lawn and garden pest control needs. Visit bantingaccessory.com and tune in Saturdays from 9 to 11 a.m. People's Health wants you to know that Medicare's open enrollment period you get now.
Yeah.
A couple things.
Yeah.
I did it, one, because it's not the end of the world. I didn't dump the
Squeeze. Oh, no, that's fine.
It was funny. It was like, in the worst case scenario, you just say, like, misunderstanding. I heard Albert say it, and I thought to myself, don't lean into it, Doug. And it was entirely into it.
Why not?
So if anyone gets mad at me, I'll throw you under the bus.
Throw me under the bus.
We queued up 2 callers. I gave them to Albert. He wants to take the second caller first.
Yeah.
The second caller's question is pertains to power of attorney. Still, they didn't tell me what it was.
What's his name?
Talking about power of attorney. They had power of attorney. It is caller from Hammond. They gave me their call name is WT. I don't know if they don't feel comfortable giving out their name. It's WT from Hammond. I just wrote the letters.
Okay.
I got a power of attorney question. The second caller, Ernest from North Carolina, but he bought a piece of property in St. Tammany Parish, Covington.
Okay.
Bought it, moved down here, found a very bad urine smell from a dog that used to live there, from the previous owner that he can't get over really. He worked as a realtor to get it down here, so I don't believe he bought the property online or anything. And he did inspect the home himself. He said that he thinks that they had air fresheners to kind of mask it while he was doing the inspection.
Okay.
But I don't know if he's trying to get from what I can tell, the sale is complete, the transaction is complete. He bought the property, so I don't know if he's looking to rectify it or what. But that is Ernest calling from North Carolina, and the property is in St. Tammany.
Gotcha.
All things legal on WWL.
Well, we're gonna go to WT first.
Okay.
Talking about blood. 504-260-1870. And don't forget to rewind.
Hey, we're back. Who's that? Colin? Oh, but she's got so many better songs, don't she? The burp. That's a deep cut. But Dionne Warwick's got the I like her Burt Bacharach songs, Yes.
She was in a church choir.
Yeah. Whitney Houston. Right. That's right.
Could you imagine that church choir? And that church was rocking. With Whitney Houston and Dionne Warwick in the choir together. How amazing is that?
They were yes. Let's go to phone lines. Let's go WT from Hammond, the home of Kim Mulkey and Tajay Spears for the Tennessee Titans, who the Saints maybe should have drafted instead of Kendre Miller. But what you got for us, WT?
Yeah, you had to bring that up. But anyway.
one in California. So I was going to give it to her because I trust her implicitly. And but what my question is, and you've talked about a lot of times, what if we travel a lot together? What if we both have a misfortunate death happen to both of us on the same trip? And can I give 2 powers of attorney at one time or no? Keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. When you execute a power of attorney, you have authority as an agent under the power of attorney. It terminates upon the death of the person granting the power of attorney. So the principal dies, the power of attorney is over with. And then what happens is the heirs will have to open succession and have a succession administrator appointed to handle the affairs of the deceased after their death. So just because you grant your live-in power of attorney to handle your affairs, it's only during your lifetime. So in the event something should happen to you and you want to say, let's say you own the house or y'all own the house together, or you have finances or whatever that you want to allow her to use during her lifetime to collect the interest on or whatever, you need to put that in a will in the event that you pass away. And you can also grant a power of attorney to each other in the event you lose your capacity to make decisions. They can help make medical decisions for you. They can help you, again, run the bank, get your insurance information, et cetera, et cetera. But that's what the power of attorney does. It's for during your lifetime. Beyond that, you'll need a will. Gotcha. That helps me a lot. I appreciate it, guys.
One question for you, WT. You think Tajay should have been drafted instead of Kendre Miller by the Saints?
How many plays has Tajay played in his career versus Kendrick Miller?
Probably about 500 to 10. I did too.
I thought his stats looked pretty good. I watched the film on him and I said, okay, well, let's give this a try. But I was a Tajay Spears from the Jets, but yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Remember Russell Erskine? So we've been good for a long time.
Sean Knight. Sean Knight. Yeah, so that's a. I'll go back further than that. We traded Billy Newsome for Bert Jones. Now, we had a quarterback at the time, but we used the pick that we traded for Billy Newsome in 1973, the Baltimore Colts picked for Bert Jones. And so I think we have a. So there you go. There we go. There we go. There you go. All right. Okay. You know, it's funny. Before we take a break, now we're talking about the Saints. Now, Cullen is sort of like his frame of reference goes back to Drew Brees. Cullen, do you have a frame of reference before Drew Brees? Okay, because you're 24 years old. Now, a lot of young guys had no idea that we had 1967 to maybe, well, we had a little brief period with from 86 to 92 with Jim Mora, but 1967 basically to 2005, where in October, our favorite, I guess, or the most common phrase was next year. We're going to get a high draft pick next year, and we'll do, next year it will be the year. But really, there was a good 35. Now, Jim Moore gave us about 4 or 5 years that we were very competitive. Unfortunately, we were in the same division as San Francisco 49ers when they had Joe Montana, Roger Craig, Jerry Rice, so on. But for the most part, that what we're going through now was sort of the norm for about 35 years. So it's just too much. Yeah, we're going to go to yes. And he's got a good question as far as buying a house, which is sort of up your alley, Albert. So let's go to break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout. Who's on next?
Ernest from North Carolina. But again, is Ernest from North Carolina?
Yeah. Gotcha.
Property that he bought in
Say time of hours. Okay.
Hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6481. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6481. That's 800-575-6481. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Did you underestimate your tax liability or receive tax notices from the IRS? Don't let your situation get out of control. Call Go Tax Resolution, your local tax professionals, to help you or your clients get back on track. 985-722-1040. That's 985-722-1040. Or reach out to us at gotaxresolution.com. That's GEAUX taxresolution.com.
Hi, this is Sam with Go Tax Resolution. Are you overwhelmed with tax notices and don't know where to turn? Well, Go Tax Resolution has former IRS agents that specialize in tax and will find the best solution for you. Give Go Tax Resolution a call today to schedule your consultation and make this the year to take back control. That's 985-722-1040 or visit us at gotaxresolution.com. That's GEAUX taxresolution.com.
Are you a business owner doing your own bookkeeping? Why? It makes no sense, literally. Focus on what you do well, like growing your business, and let Accounting Services Unlimited handle your bookkeeping. Hi, this is Thomas Fontes. Accounting Services Unlimited is insanely affordable and will come to you. Call for a free quote. Accounting Services Unlimited, 504-717-6253. That's 717-6253. Or visit us at ASU-LLC.com.
This is Paul LaGrange, host of the Home Improvement Show. Get ready to unwind and transform your backyard with a new pool installed by Pleasure Pools. I'm talking about the Sip and Dip Extravaganza. This is a high-quality, fully equipped pool. It has a salt chlorinator, LED lighting, variable speed pump, all controlled by your phone. The Sip and Dip swimming pool can be installed within 2 weeks, and you're going to love being outdoors. Go to the website and visit pleasurepoolsno.com, pleasurepoolsno.com. Tell them Paul sent you.
Sports fans, it's time to level up your Thursday. The all-new 4 to 7 p.m. Sports Talk.
Restrictions required. Online consultation with healthcare provider will determine appropriate restrictions. Policy website for details and the policy information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Stahl, board-certified urologist and senior vice president of men's sexual health at HIMSS. In my 12 years of practice as a reproductive urologist, I've helped many guys with ED, and it has never been more convenient to treat than it is right now, thanks to HIMSS. It really wasn't easy before. You had to take time out of your day, come to a physical office, and see a specialist.
All right, so we're definitely taking Ernest here. The power of attorney stuff is going over like here.
Yeah.
We got a text line as well.
100% online process.
Do you see that?
Yeah. Let's see.
We got a text line. I'll give it to you while you're going up. Someone said, we'll do it after the call.
Yeah.
So maybe start next hour. Someone said, good morning, Doug and Albert. I'm 76 years old. I've never married and have no children. I have a will and named one of my 2 nieces as executrix. Should I have her on my checking account as well as power of attorney?
Okay. Good. Yeah.
Someone also asked, and I don't think this is yet. There's no other text here, but someone also asked if you have 2 children, can both have power of attorney?
Okay. That's a good question.
But yeah, we can save this for a little while later. We'll do Ernest here.
Free Odyssey app and search and follow your local news station Eagle on WWL AM/FM and the Odyssey app. Connect with Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on the Oakland Art Jewelers Talking Text line 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. Is that Dion and the? Is that Dion? Huh? Come on, I know that. 1959, 1958. That's would be my guess. All right. I was born in 62, so I obviously don't remember it. But let's go to phone lines. Let's go to Ernest, who listens to us in North Carolina. Ernest, what you have for us?
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for taking my call.
All right.
I recently bought a house in St. Tammany Parish, and I was thinking about I was going to move back down there to be closer to my family.
Mm-hmm.
And the house that I bought, after I got there, and I went there a few days before I was planning on moving, and I noticed that there was a smell in the house. And it appears to me that the seller tried to mask a urine smell. They had come to find out, by talking to some of the neighbors, they had a urine problem with dogs that the previous owner had. And they had not disclosed that. The seller had air fresheners. When I went down there for the inspection, there was an air freshener in there, and I didn't think much about it until after the closing. We went there and took the unplugged the thing, and then after I stayed there a few nights, I started noticing smells of urine in the house. Now, they had gone in before they put the house on the market, and they had painted the house, and they put new floors down. But the smell, I can still smell it. And I'm just wondering if I have any kind of options that I could come back on the seller for, or if they could fix it or get rid of the smell.
Yeah, so it's a Louisiana Civil Code term. It's called redivision, and it's basically when you are seeking to sue the seller for a defect that was not disclosed to you, and you are seeking either reduction of the purchase price or return of the purchase price. The issue is a urine smell that is not disclosed, or any type of odor that is not disclosed, a defect in the premises. There have been some cases where they talk about a rat infestation, right? And rat feces, and they did not disclose that, and they never could get rid of the rats, and they did all kinds of things, and they contacted the prior pest control operators and said, oh yeah, we've been over there a bunch of times, and we can't eradicate them. So the courts have held that was a retivatory defect, right? We give you rights to in redivision. My guess is that masking a urine smell, that maybe is the house on a slab or is it up on piers?
It's on a slab.
It's on a slab.
It is.
Yeah, so I mean, unless the urine is coming from, it's like way down into the slab, my guess is they might have had carpeting, and they would let their dogs go use the bathroom in the house, and it kind of seep down into the slab, which is porous and remains porous for many, many, many years. I mean, yes, if they knew about it, and did you ever visit the house prior to the sale?
I went down for the inspection, and I noticed that when I was there for the inspection, I noticed there was an air freshener, one of those plug-in things that you stick in the wall. But I didn't really think nothing about it. I just thought the house maybe had been closed up, and they were trying to freshen it up or something. But they were trying to cover the smell of that urine, is what they were doing.
would be involved with that. If you talk to anyone about that.
I have not. I didn't.
I think that's a start. I would only have.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a starting point because you need to look at, what we're talking about, how much it's going to, to cost because, they have these different type of air purifiers and different things like that you can put in the house and circulate that air until, it may in fact, be remediated. And, if you're looking at a couple of $1,000, it's not worth hiring a lawyer for and running the risk of, having to deal with all the litigation and the costs and the experts and the court costs and et cetera, et cetera. So I think a good place to start for anyone is to see how much are we really looking at before, you start hiring an attorney to, start paying an attorney to get into all that. Look into it yourself and see, they have those companies. I gotta think there's some restoration companies and things like that. Look them up to maybe put some type of whole house air purifiers or something like that will help take some of that out of the air. And then, again, if it's down the slab and it needs to be sealed or something like that, you'll have to, move the furniture up, pick up the floors, and hopefully you can put them back down. If not, you need new floors. I mean, it could be an expense, but until you know what you're looking at, but I think you would likely have a cause of action for a ratificatory defect, and that was not disclosed to you. Even if you signed it as this clause, if they're aware of the defect and they fail to disclose it, then they can be held liable and actually pay your attorney's fees for failing to disclose the defect to which they were aware of.
Well, there's nothing on any of the papers that I looked at. There's nothing that they put down about any kind of urine odor. And I found out about this I smelled it, of course, and then I questioned some of the neighbors, and one of the neighbors told me that she had been in the house on a couple of occasions, and it was so bad she couldn't even stand in there more than 5 minutes.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I mean, those neighbors will be great witnesses. You know where the person moved to? Are they still around in the area? I'm sorry?
I think they're still in the St. Tammany Parish somewhere, I think.
Okay. Yeah, because I had a situation where, these people bought a home and the seller moved out of state. So it just makes it a little harder to bring the cause of action, and then if you do get a judgment, have to go try to collect it in another state. So it just brings the attorney's fee expense and the cost of litigation way up. But if they're right there in St. Tammany Parish, that makes it a lot more doable. So yeah, start there, find out how much you're talking about, and then just call it back.
All right. Thanks for the call, Ernest. Thanks for calling from North Carolina. Let's go to a break. Sunseri and Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out. Okay, you got me there. It's not Nancy. Yeah. It's I watched it, but I'm not a huge Ferris Bueller. Is that Nancy Sinatra? Who's that? She was singing it? That was a she. Yeah, no, that was Wayne Newton. Okay.
Enjoy all the NFL action with a chance to do.
Looks like
He's a cross between Elvis and Engelbert Humperdinck.
Absolutely. It looks exactly like that. Sports bets, if you win a bet on tonight's game. My favorite features in the app is Parlay Hunt, Popular Bets, and FanDuel Square.
I love that Engelbert's name is so cute.
Engelbert, they thought would be the next Elvis.
Enjoy all the NFL action with a chance
They really did.
on FanDuel.
And he had a couple of good songs.
I can't take my eyes off you. It's a smash.
Right, he sang it after Frankie Frankie Valley.
But come on, his version's so good.
Yes, I think they're equally as. I think they're equally.
We got time.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Yes, absolutely.
We don't have any callers at the moment, so
Let's just.
we can open with next hour.
We'll do this. We're going to open with the Saints. We'll do the Saints.
I know we did get a chance to because we've been busy with, we didn't get a chance to talk much Saints or much Celtics, but we can do that towards the end of the 10 o'clock hour, or we can do it at the beginning, probably towards the end if we want.
Yeah, probably so.
It'd be better to be at the end.
Yeah.
Google it if we want to. I don't want to bring it up because it's just going to warm people on fire, but I did look it up. When it comes to just flat out rushing attempts, the difference between Tajay Spears and Kendrick Miller is Tajay Spears has 17 games played last year and 5 games played this year. Kendrick had 8 last year and 1 this year. Kendrick has 41 total carries from last year, 6 this year. Tajay had 100 last year, 33.
There you go.
So
There you go.
basically 100 more carries. And that's just carries.
That's carries. Probably that's right. They were in. Right.
Kendrick Miller had 10 receptions last year. Tajay had 52 for 90 days with a local. So basically, from everything I can see math-wise, it's basically anywhere from a 2 to 5 times increase in amount of play time. When you close your loan by December 31st.
Well, I think they thought that Tajay was too much like Kamara.
Flow Resources, complete employer solutions. FlowResources.com.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a...
We're back at we'll have a minute and a half here. A little less than that, minute 20.
This initiative was established...
Oh, we'll have about a minute.
Minute and a half or so. I actually...
Okay. Let's do, Engelbert Humperdinck.
Yeah, I was gonna do this. I can't take my eyes off you. It's Engelbert
Humperdinck.
Right? Or
Humperdinck.
I thought it was Dink.
For business-backed taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your...
He can pull off the button chops. A little bit. I never think most people can, but you can pull them off a little bit.
9105 800-727-9105 800-727-9105.
Hey, we're back. Now that's Engelbert Humperdinck's version of "Can't Take My Eyes Off of You," as opposed to Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons. There's a debate on who does it better. Frankie Valli wrote it, but Engelbert covers it almost as good as Frankie Valli. I vote for Engelbert on that one. So me and other 90-year-olds will probably be, that's sort of a World War II generation type of debate. All right. Let's see. We got about a minute to go. We got to go to national news and local news. We're on for an extra hour today, so it's a little bonus coverage of all things legal. We're leading into the 11 o'clock at First Take, and then after that will be countdown to kickoff with Deuce Bobby, and the kickoff for the Saints Chargers game at 3:05. So stay tuned for all things legal for our third hour. So we'll see you in about 10 minutes after national news and local news. Okay. No, I'm not.
WWL New Orleans, 105.3 WWL FM and HD1 Canada New Orleans, and Odyssey Station. This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Wendy Gillette, almost a week before Election Day, the presidential race could not be tighter. Deputy Director of Surveys for CBS News, Jennifer DePinto, has the results of a new poll.
The race is tied 50-50 across the collective battlegrounds, and nationally, Kamala Harris has just a 1-point edge over Donald Trump. Trump has incrementally erased a 4-point national edge that Harris had after their debate in September.
For the first time, Vice President Kamala Harris campaigned with former First Lady Michelle Obama at a rally in Kalamazoo, Michigan. She appealed to men.
Please do not hand our fates over to the likes of Trump, who knows nothing about us, who has shown deep contempt for us, because a vote for him is a vote against us, against our health, against our worth.
Harris is addressing a church right now in Philadelphia. Former President Donald Trump will hold a major rally at Madison Square Garden in New York. CBS's Bradley Blackburn.
You're not going to destroy our nation. Kamala Harris, you're fired.
After campaigning in Michigan Saturday, former President Trump traveled to Pennsylvania, another battleground.
She got no votes. He got 14 million. All of a sudden, I'm running against her.
All across the country, the candidates are racing to the end.
Iran has still not indicated how it will respond after Israel's air attack early Saturday. It targeted military bases, steering clear of oil and nuclear sites, as the U.S. had requested. The BBC's Sebastian Usher.
It was more limited than perhaps had been anticipated, and it gives Iran potentially a leeway in the cycle of escalation that Iran can, to some extent, not feel an imperative that it's got to strike back very hard.
Palestinian officials say Israeli strikes on northern Gaza killed at least 22 people, mostly women and children. In Tel Aviv, a truck rammed into a bus stop, killing one person and hurting 30 others. Game 2 of the World Series is in the books.
Trevino lifts a fly ball to center field. Tommy Edman is there, and the Dodgers lead this World Series 2-game shutdown.
The call from Fox, the Dodgers beat the Yankees 4-2, but star Shohei Ohtani partially dislocated his left shoulder on an unsuccessful steal. It's unclear if he'll play tomorrow night in Game 3 in New York. Yankees manager Aaron Boone is trying to stay optimistic about his team's losing effort thus far.
No one says it's going to be easy. It's a long series, and we need to make it a long series now. But we won't flinch. We just got to keep at it.
This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your family, your phone, and your furry friends with life, electronic device, and pet health insurance.
Imagine your team always looking and feeling their best in high-performance technical workwear. Cintas can make it happen. They have garments for almost every job imaginable. And with the Cintas Workwear program, you get freshly laundered garments delivered every week for everyone on your team. Great garments without the bother of laundry. That's a real perk for employees. Find out how Cintas can boost team image and morale. Visit Cintas.com.
Hold on, hey!
And get ready for the workday.
Jose stands tall atop a sustainable flooring company.
It's renewable and water resistant, but we have some green options. Or we got some beautiful reclaimed clothes.
But floored by his success, he needs to hire more installers.
I need you.
Indeed you do. Put our matching platform to work so you can spend less time searching and more time connecting with talented candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
WWO First News Unfortunately and your official weather station, WWO.
Sunday will be gorgeous once again on both sides of the continent. End of the week, we do see a warming trend with additional humidity building in again. I'm Halloween. No concern for anything in the tropics to elevate anytime soon.
WWO TV meteorologist Brooke Laser has a forecast forecast in just a moment. Amy Moylan's broadcasting legend has died.
Eric Paulson first started charting the city of New Orleans when WWTV launched the Irish Morning News in the late 1970s. And the city fell in love with him. Even early on, Eric was a natural at just the right question in just the right way to draw an answer that no one else could get.
Paulson left the news desk about a month ago following an aggressive form of cancer diagnosis. Word of his passing spread quickly over the weekend. He was was 74 years old. New Orleans police are investigating a homicide. According to investigators, 4th District officers were called to the 900 block of Nunez Street shortly before 11:20 p.m. last night on a report of a shooting. Responding officers found the victim inside a vehicle, suffering from an apparent gunshot wound. New Orleans EMS confirmed the victim was deceased. The victim will be transported to the Orleans Parish Coroner's Office for autopsy. Taylor Swift opened her Eras Tour night number 2 on Saturday, and at one moment, she stopped, smiled, turned in every direction she could on stage to admire the 65,000 fans screaming and cheering for her in the sold-out Caesars Superdome. She looked and said, "New Orleans, we have arrived." Here's Sports Time with Charlie Long.
Alright, still nothing on the call line, but
Okay.
guys back into the text board. We can
Yeah, let's go. I think we'll dive into the text board. Why don't you? I'm gonna get you to read some of the legal texts. Or you want to go through? We can go through all of them. Let's go through all of them. Let's do this. Okay. Why don't you go through? Start with. Yeah. He's a squirrel. He's just a squirrel. Yeah. Why don't you start with the one with the divorce? Can you get a divorce online? I like when you read them because you read them a lot better than me. So, right. Let's start with the one with can you get a divorce online? Yeah. Let's do that. Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
I'll be a bit more aggressive, taking the 40 and 50 break this hour, but I want to make sure you guys have enough time to focus on.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk. We'll save the Saints stuff toward the end.
We could if we want to. I don't know when, but I mean, taking a quick peek at the schedule next time that we would have a Sunday all through meeting and things that they're bye week.
Yes, that's in November.
That is week 12.
And that's November what? Her.
Enjoy another beautiful forecast for Sunday. It's
the week before Thanksgiving.
So it's the 23rd.
24th.
Okay.
So yeah, Thursday the 24th, and then we come back on the. It is the last weekend of November, and then the very next weekend would be December.
So our next show is the 24th.
Our next show would be Sunday, unless you do a Saturday thing.
No, I'm not doing Saturday.
The next show would be Sunday, December 1st. Or
December.
Sunday the 24th.
No, November. Right.
So it'll be the last Sunday of November.
All right. Okay. That's no problem. I'm gonna do promo. Hey, we're back for hour number 3. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We're on till 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, you can listen to First Take with Steve Geller and Charlie Long. 1 o'clock, countdown the Bud Light. Countdown to kickoff. Bobby Hebert will be at Rouse. Let's see. Will he be at Rouse's? Yes, Rouse's with Steve Geller, and then at 3:05 it'll be game time with Deuce and Mike Haas. And also too, here's a little wrinkle: if you want to listen to the Pelicans Trailblazer game, you can listen to that on 870 AM, or you could keep listening to the Saints and Chargers on 105.3 FM, and you can listen to either on Odyssey.com. So that's the schedule for today. And All Things Legal will be off until November 24th. I think the Saints will have a bye weekend, so we'll be back. So we'll be off for another month. But we do have an extra hour today. So if you're tuning in and you're like saying, well, who are these guys? It's All Things Legal. They just gave us an extra hour to lead into the first take. Colin, since you'll be the client, we got some text. So why don't you go through the text and we'll try to deal with them. Right. Gotcha. That's it.
Can you get a divorce online? Each other person agrees and doesn't want anything from you.
Okay, first of all, Colin, since you're going to pretend to be the client, I'll need your credit card number for a retainer. Okay, so we'll be running it while we answer the question. So we want you to get the real feel of what it's like to be a client and for the law firm. No. We're going to say, what's your credit card number first before we do anything. So anyway, just kidding. All right. Can you get divorced online? No, you can't. You have to do that in person. Now, in certain jurisdictions, if it's agreeable, a lot of times we can get the divorce without going to court, without making an appearance in court. So a lot of times, if it's an amicable divorce and both parties sign off on all the documentation, you will not have to make a court appearance. We would submit the documentation from the divorce to the judge and ask them to sign off on it without actual court appearances of the clients. There's two types of divorces. Well, there's three relevant time periods. If you have children after 18, basically you can get a divorce after 1 year after the other spouse has been served with the petition. There's another method if you have children under 18 and you have lived separate and apart for a year, you can file for what is called a 103 divorce, where you ask for an immediate divorce. You have to serve the petition for divorce and allege that you've lived separate and apart for 1 year, and the other spouse has to concur in that. Then you can get a divorce for the next, hearing date. Or if you do not have children less than 18 or younger, then the waiting period is 6 months from the time that you've been served with the petition for divorce. Or if you have been living separate and apart for 6 months, you can file for a 103 divorce. But if there's a agreement on the issue of divorce, then you can basically sign affidavits and other documentation, waivers of service that would normally preclude an appearance in court to actually effectuate the divorce. And if you have community property, whether you agree or disagree, that would be dealt with usually after the divorce. You can effectuate a voluntary community property agreement with 30 days after you file for divorce, but both parties would have to agree. All right, so that's a primer of Divorce 1001 in about 3 minutes. Next text, Colin. Albert, if you got two quarterbacks, you have none.
Well, the legal answer is yes. But the problem you run into is you've got a lot of skittish companies, banks, insurance companies, et cetera, that when there is a power of attorney issued in both or two names, they're going to want two people to sign off on it. It makes the effectiveness from an ease of operation standpoint a lot less effective because, somebody's in town, somebody's not in town, somebody, one of the two is they have
All right, because I always when I use the analogy, everything goes back to football. That if someone wants to do two executors or two succession representatives or two agents for power of attorneys, I would say something like, do you know what the LA Raiders coach said leading into the season? And they said, what? Well, they had two quarterbacks. One was Garner Minshew and the other one was the kid from Purdue. And I said, when you have two quarterbacks, you really have none. Because what happens is if you have two, agents, if they disagree, then you back to putting it into a litigation framework. Because if you have two co-executors or succession representatives and they disagree on whether to sell a piece of property or not, then you're defeating the whole purpose of having a will, in the sense of you have to go to court and have the court decide that at a great expense. If you have two agents who are power of attorney and they have disagreements as to what's the next course of action, then you have a situation where inertia. You can't, the financial institution or the real estate company may require both to sign off. One won't sign off. You're at an impasse, and so then you have a problem that is created that a power of attorney was supposed to alleviate. So, just like Albert said, I'm not a fan of having co-executors or agents in a power of attorney, because if there's disagreement, then it's self-defeating to have a power of attorney that you can't enforce, or it's self-defeating to have executors who can't take action on an estate. So, you be very careful of it. I always equate it to, like I said, when a coach says we have two quarterbacks going into the season, it means you have none. So, and that's a problem. So, by analogy, I would say that co-executors and co-agents have the same kind of dynamics. All right. Do we have any other texts that are?
Good morning, Doug and Albert. I'm 76 years old. I have never been married. I have no children. I do have a will, and I named one of my two nieces as the executive trust. Should I have her on my checking account as well as power of attorney?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do that for instance, these immediately after the person would die. Certainly you want to name your niece as the agent under a power of attorney. And that way, in the event of your incapacity, you can have someone there to prepare for you during your lifetime. Thereafter, you have it against this is only in a will, and that person can have it prepared afterwards. To make it easier, obviously you trust this needs, but then you might want to add that needs to your checking account, and you can kind of start paying your bills now, and if there's an issue even immediately after your death, before the bank gets wind of it, the emergency type expenses can be paid, funeral expenses, you continue to pay the house note if there's a house note, insurance on the house, whatever it may be. Those things can be done. Of course, the attorney that insurance will need to keep an account of everything, and show where the money's being removed, all the money from the casino into an account that is set up, a state account with a separate tax ID number, and to continue to pay the bills and whatever income comes in, that can go into that state account as well. But it's not a bad idea. I see a lot of people do it, and some attorneys want a fee up front or half up front or whatever the case may be. And so, if you want to go see an attorney, then you have those funds there and receive this checking account to go ahead and
Pay for the funeral too. Pay for the funeral also.
Pay for the funeral, pay for the flowers, the ornaments, and all of those things. It's not a bad idea to have a little spending money on the plan. So yeah,
So you want to have an organist at your funeral? Okay, we'll keep that in mind. All right. All right. Well, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout. Hey, I got a good song. California Dreamin', since the Saints play in Los Angeles. Yeah. Now the Beach Boys actually cover it. All right. Do the Beach Boys cover. Yeah. Yeah.
We first have up Steve from Baton Rouge. He's calling about the Fifth Circuit Appeals Court. He is apparently the information is never given. He's party to a restraining order, and the defendant is appealing the judge's restraining order. They don't agree with the conditions of the order.
Okay, gotcha.
After that, though, we're going to go to Quinn from Marrero. He is wondering what is the legal standing against Quinn from Marrero.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know. I couldn't tell if, and I usually like to pick up on this from tone or we were talking about. I couldn't tell if he was on the side of it or against. I couldn't tell if he was the one trying to bring the animal in and he was getting told no, or if he's the one saying don't do this. I couldn't tell what stance he's taking, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that's his question.
Gotcha.
What's the legality of it?
Yeah.
He referred to it first. He said going. Here's the tricky part. He said going into a business, and then he later specified it's his church. I feel like
okay.
In a bag and never out the car window.
Bag it, tie it, put a lid on.
We keep litter out of our lakes and Lafayette. We keep our roads clean by clearing out our truck beds and securing our loads. We need every person in every parish to stop littering and keep Louisiana beautiful. For more litter prevention tips, visit LetLouisianaShine.org.
Sponsored by the Louisiana Lieutenant Governor's Office. Are you a business owner doing your own bookkeeping? Why? It makes no sense, literally. Focus on what you do well, like growing your business. And let Accounting Services Unlimited handle your bookkeeping. Hi, this is Thomas Fonte. Accounting Services Unlimited is insanely affordable and will come to you. Call for a free quote. Accounting Services Unlimited, 514-717-6253. That's 717-6253. Or visit us at ASU-LLC.com.
The tenacity to take you further, the thrill of the ride, and the capability to get you there. Get it all in the 2024 Toyota Tundra. It's as adventurous as you make it. Test drive at your local Toyota dealer and visit Toyota.com today. Adventure, it's what we share.
One of the most common injuries resulting from a car accident is a back injury. Just last week, it happened to you. Take it seriously. Get the help you need right now. Demand W. Devotion. Call 444-4444. Check out that page. LA241668. There is breaking news all day long.
I have a fucking operator.
Tons. All that noise makes it hard to hear about what's happening right here at home. With the free Odyssey app, getting your local news plus breaking news is easy. And even when you're not near a radio, stay connected with what's going on right here by listening live and push alerts. Just download the free Odyssey app and search and follow your local news station, and you're good to go. The local breaking news to get you through your day at your fingertips on the free Odyssey app. That's AUDACY.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt,
Okay, I'm done.
Depending on how long you go with Steve here,
Yeah.
it takes when.
Okay.
I don't want to try to finish this.
Okay, let's talk. We're good.
We took that 20 break a little early.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good.
This is not bankruptcy or debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about. It ends the debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or I'll take advantage of this.
She's working out now. She probably wants to do plants. Like put a plant. Yeah. No, I don't do plants. I don't do yard work.
After the show, you'll have like a 4-hour window.
I do no yard work.
Now, more All Things Legal, underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. All advice given.
I'm saying that when the rejoin ends, give this a second before you let this on.
Gotcha.
Well,
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. California Dreamin', covered by the Beach Boys in 1985. I think they sing it better than the Mamas and Papas, personally. But that's a matter of debate. And do you think the Saints are California Dreamin' right now? They're in Los Angeles, and we'll see. They're getting healthy, or they'll have Taysom back. They'll have Olave back. Is Caesar back? Cesar Ruiz back, or is he still? So that's, So we got a little, sort of mixed emotions. No matter who's the coach, if you don't have the horses, you're not going to win. And they haven't had players, so we'll see. We'll see if he can coach them up and take care of the Chargers. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Steve in Baton Rouge, a town in mourning, Baton Rouge this morning. He's got a question regarding an appeal. Hey, Steve, you're on All Things Legal. What you got for us, brother?
Thank you. I am a plaintiff in a restraining order with 4 other individuals against a neighbor.
Okay.
And they are appealing, the defendant is appealing the restraining order, and it's going to the 5th Circuit Appeals Court.
Yes.
And we no longer have the attorney who represented us in the original court battle with the restraining order, which we were successful.
Mm-hmm.
They are appealing it based on a few administrative things that the judge did that they claim was in error. Now, we are no longer represented. How does the appellate process work, and should we be represented in this process?
No, absolutely. First of all, you have the opportunity to file a response brief to the brief that is filed by, in this case, the defendants, who would be the appellants. You would be the appellee, person opposing the appeal. You'd have the opportunity to file a brief. The other issue is whether the appellants or defendants, in this case, requested oral argument. Usually, the oral argument will occur 2 or 3 months after the briefs are submitted. So you're going to need an attorney to do two things. One is to submit an appellee brief or a response brief to their brief. And you could put in all the, contest all the arguments and procedural objections they may have in this appellee brief. Then you would have oral argument. Now, typically in an appeal to Louisiana Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals or any circuit court of appeals, you will have 3 judges who normally preside over the case. And the 3 judges will ultimately issue a judgment. You could have a situation where they all 3 agree. You have a situation where 2 agree and 1 doesn't. You could have a situation where if it's a matter of law, they could decide to, possibly all deal with them, or have a full panel, which is very rare. But for the most part, you're going to need an attorney to file that appellate brief to respond to the brief that is filed by the appellee brief to respond to the appellant. And you also, too, you can make whatever objections, make sure they filed it on time, make sure they followed the proper procedures to an appeal, make sure these issues are appealable. There's a lot of procedural and substantive issues you can address. And then you will also need them for oral argument if it has been properly requested.
What if again, I am one of 4, and nobody wants to
No, I don't think you would be able to. I would. I can't say that with certainty. But if you don't file a brief, you may waive your opportunity to object because you haven't provided to the court, what your position is. In writing. The appellate court's not the people's court. You can't go in there and sort of start talking with Judge Judy. I mean, this is a lot more formality to it, a lot more rules. There's certain rules on as far as what you can argue. Basically, your argument has to be based on the record and not a lot outside of it. So if they did let you speak, they would be highly irritated and rolling their eyes because they would probably not take kindly to it. I think that would be up to the judges previously whether they would let y'all argue or not. There's time periods that are involved. There's protocols that are involved. I don't know that they would let you argue in absence of submitting a brief because the court, these appellate judges want to see what your argument is. And what they do is when they read the briefs, they'll give you 15 minutes. Now, you can break it up if you're the appellant, that you can break it up for rebuttal. But basically, they read the briefs and start asking questions based on issues that are raised in the brief. So if you don't file a brief, they may not allow you to argue because you haven't put anything before the court. So, if you wanted to, I would call the clerk of these judges and ask them. I'd call the first Fifth Circuit Court. There's a I forgot her name. She's very, very good. You could ask her saying, "Hey, we're not planning on filing a brief. Do you think the judges will let us argue?" And she'll talk to them, and they may say yes, they may say no. You may want to check to make sure that oral argument. No, I wouldn't think so. They're not going to let you.
You want to oppose this or support the training board. If this is something you really want to do and have it effective, then hire an attorney, get them to review all the documentation, and or at least to review the defendant's brief and file the appeal on your behalf. If you want to just let it go by the wayside. Sometimes it's a financial decision when it comes to these types of decisions with restraining orders and just various other types of litigation where it's what the stuff was the money or whatever happens. And if you don't care, then I guess don't get a lawyer, don't fight it. But if it's something you're still interested in, you may still win. The court may just look at it and say, no, there's no real right here, but I think they're going to find it curious that you had an attorney, and now all of a sudden nobody's responding to this brief. So, by the way, if you decide to move forward, absolutely yes, get an attorney.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Kevin from Metry, home of the West Esplanade Canal. Metry, what do you have for us, Kevin? Would
division, but no, right now it's like they're doing
so succession. Oh, your parents are still living. Okay, they passed, so they're probating the will. All right, capital gains. How long ago did they pass? Okay, well, I don't think capital gains will be less of an issue because you get what is called a stepped-up basis, meaning that The basis for your capital gains tax will be based on the date of death of the parents, and not based on the purchase price back in the 1960s. So you
So what you want to do is evaluate the property. There's a gray area, right? So if you evaluate it kind of to the higher end of the gray area. If you guys choose,
you want to take a break after this?
worth $1 million, at $1 million, sell it for $1,050,000.
Okay.
So, because the basis becomes value and comes down. So that's capital gain call.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for the call. Okay. Colin, you want to go to a break, or you want to go through some text? Okay. Let's go. Yeah. Well, what they're saying is, if you have co-agents, you could put language in there that each could act independently of the other. Okay, so you could theoretically say that I have two co-agents, I only need one to make a decision. But again, the problem is, if they disagree, then you got a problem, because if they're acting independently of each other and they want to do something that is opposite of each other, then you're back at an impasse. But theoretically, in a power of attorney, if you want two agents, you can put language in there saying that they could act independently of each other, but it doesn't necessarily solve your problem as having two co-agents who may have two different ideas as to course of action, which are mutually exclusive and opposite. But that's a good text. Good text. Got another one?
So your executive or executive director, so you want to sign for the administrative position of the will, will open up the succession. The appointed, once they are appointed, then it's a very simple process. You get on the IRS website, and there's a tab for right here. It's there. We got one of the things that's extremely efficient for the federal government. They want to give you a tax ID number so you can go ahead and open an account, start paying taxes, right? So what you do is you open, you get a GIN number, a tax ID number, and you will be, there's a specific box to check for executors of the state. And so, or a succession representative. And you check it, you give them your social, you give them the deceased social, and all, and it's a very simple form, and usually within 24 hours, they will send you a sheet with your name and, your position as the administrator, and a new tax ID number. You bring that to the bank and say, look, I'm going to transfer this money into that account, and, that it's a very simple process. We typically do that for our administrators, executives that come into the office and open a succession. It's a simple process.
All right. Let's take a break. It's Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out. We'll take you out with Mac the Knife.
The next text is still building on power of attorney.
Yeah. Let's see what's the next music. Here's one. They call me Speedo. Let's see. Cadillac Speedo. Yes.
Transform your backyard into a personal paradise with a custom
Might take our early break on the next one, so we could have a long break to talk about the long segment to talk about the Saints. Colin? Short here, so we could have a good 10 minutes for the last. Yeah. So we might do a real early one. Yeah, so we can. I might take it after 2 or 3 minutes, so we'll have a long one. Okay, yeah. Okay. I won't take long to answer, and then we'll go to a break. Speedo, yeah.
Sports Bar and Grill at the all-new Treasure Chest Casino. Come out from 4 to 7. Hear what the guys have to say about this weekend's games. Sports Talk at the game. Sports Bar and Grill at the all-new Treasure Chest Casino in Kenner.
Control and maintain your weight by Rejuvenate.
It's a good show. 3 hours. I was not.
Yeah. No.
Every year, fires, hurricanes.
You kind of like that we sometimes don't have a topic that we want to pick for the show, and then the show kind of determines it. Like I'm assuming you had no clue we were going to spend this much time on power of attorney.
First steps, family trips to Yellowstone, Lost, Enter Legacy Box, digitizing your old media with Legacy.
And I did check, no, with the Jonte Murray thing, it's 4 to 6 weeks. He had surgery, which I heard would take longer, but apparently it might not. 4 to 6 weeks. There's a chance that by the time we have our next show on...
He could be...
literally 4 weeks to the day. He had surgery on like Thursday or Friday, something like that.
Right.
There's a chance that he could be back by then. I doubt it, but
Bring radio listeners an incredible 50% off. Go to legacybox.com/value and save 50% when you digitize your memories. That's legacybox.com/value.
All things legal with Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on Jordan 12 and Odyssey Station. Connect now on the Open Heart Jewelers Talking text line 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. All things legal. Speedo by the Cadillacs. All right, Colin, we're going to let you earn your raise. All right, what else do we have for text? Well, I could say one, if it's a good idea possibly to take the power of attorney and file it with the clerk of court so that it gives notice to all third parties that the power of attorney exists, and it also that third parties can rely on it. As far as informing other children, it's probably a good idea to let other children know so that there's no suspicion. No requirement. It's just... There's no legal requirement to it, but it's a good idea to do that to maintain family harmony or preclude, unnecessary family disputes. All right. Any other? Yeah. All right. Let's take one more text. What do you got, Colin?
Last one, what you said, hi, my mother had a stroke 15 years ago, and my brother managed her money and showed no record for the entire 15 years. He passed away in October of last year. Nothing had been done to claim his past. The money was gone. He is the executor for her estate. What can I do if you refuse to show any of the books and I requested her tax return?
Well, I think it's one of those things. If you want to make the investment, you could open the succession as an interested party, and then you could eventually, if there's a is it open? Okay, well then you could request an accounting. You can, if you're an heir, you can request an accounting and a detailed descriptive list, and the court will make will make them do an accounting. And if you think there's some issues involving the estate leading up to her death, you could subpoena the bank records and do a forensic to see whether the money was, what the money was used for. I mean, but if she put him in charge, yeah, Albert.
But we were able to find some checks and documents where the non-received collect from the money and the executor was placing the money in her personal account. And so what we did was file a fiduciary duty claim against the agent under the power of attorney, who was also the executor. The estate has been consolidated with the succession. And so when the house was sold, we clawed all that money back that the person, the agent of the power of attorney, in her capacity as the agent of the power of attorney, clawed all that money back, and it was there. So it's a process. 15 years is a long time, okay? I think they only have
7 years.
7.
Yeah.
I don't like that. How much money do you want to spend? How much did she have 15 years ago? Was it the money with a social security check every month? Is it really worth it? But if it's not your money, it might be worth hiring a security firm to go through do an audit or whatever, accounts and books and whatever they can find. But see what exists to see how it's done.
All right. Let's go to our last break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, you Weekend Warriors. We'll be right back after this brief timeout. Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. 1968, I think. We're sports. We're going to do sports. Yeah.
Breaking news about the Saints and LSU on WWL is powered by BetQL. Smarter bets start with BetQL. Download the BetQL app or visit BetQL.com today. WWL is proudly sponsored by Dudley Devozier, official injury lawyers of the New Orleans Saints. Call 444-4444.
My name is KD Fans, and I wrote the NBA years back, and FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, wants you to catch all the action. Because right now, FanDuel is giving all users 3 months of NBA League Pass. All you have to do to catch every tip-off and buzzer beater is place any $5 bet on the NBA. What I'm looking forward to is Victor Wembanyama in San Antonio. What do you think?
In between now and when we speak, the Saints have a very nice slate of games with the Chargers, Panthers, Falcons, and Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Courtesy of the only teams above 500.
Chargers are what, 3-3? So we got Chargers, Browns, and who else? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, no. We'll be back. I'm assuming that morning.
Which morning?
December 1st.
Yeah.
Because I just realized that game is an national game.
Yeah.
Back December 1st.
Right.
We also have a show December 22nd.
Right.
Take the 2024 Community Health Needs Assessment Survey to ensure better health services for everyone in Southeast Louisiana. The survey is required to ensure hospitals are meeting the community's health needs and learning how health services can be improved.
Yeah.
But can improve health outcomes for a lifetime. Visit UnitedWaySPLA.org.
Game days for the LCMCL Health Report during the countdown to kickoff and locker room shows. Deuce, Bobby, and the team will break down team health and how they will impact.
I think Tampa's a better team.
Yeah, but they just lost their wide receiver 1 and 2.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
They don't have Godwin for the year, and they won't have Evans for at least a month, apparently.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I agree. I think they're the better team, but I also think they got those taken out of the sales. If anything, it'll be a real testament if they come out and win. I will not write them off. And I know they've got playmakers, but like their best 2 offensive weapons are down. And it's like just like we said earlier, if you don't have the horses, it doesn't matter.
So you can rewatch them anytime, anywhere.
I do think they've got better. But if it's like, but again, if it's like the last time the Falcons and Bucks played each other, or if it's like the last Bucks game against the Raiders, if the defense doesn't show up for the Bucks and it turns into a shootout, I'm going with the team that doesn't have their 2 best players on offense. So what are you
Yeah.
for? What do you want for music here? We can do some Saints.
Yeah, let's do Saints music.
We can do Saints. I can do NFL films.
Let's do Saints. Let's do Saints.
We're back in about 20. Dude, we'll have at least 6 minutes. 5.5.
With the free Odyssey app, getting your local news plus breaking news is easy. And even when you're not near a radio, stay connected with what's going on right here by listening live and push alerts. Just download the free Odyssey app and search and follow your local news station, and you're good to go. The local breaking news to get you through your day at your fingertips on the free Odyssey app. That's AUDACY.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be back on November 24th. We'll be off until then. And stay tuned for our first take with Charlie Long and Steve Geller, right? Yeah, Steve Geller. Okay, here's what I made some observations about the Saints. Dennis Allen is 26-50. Really, realistically, they'll have to go, as a head coach, they're going to have to probably finish 8-2 to be assured of being in the playoffs. They have this week the Chargers. They got the Panthers, Falcons, and Browns, which are all winnable games, all 4 of them, especially if they're getting healthy. But here's one thing I want to talk about last year, and maybe the difference. We were at 9-8, but last year, here were the quarterbacks for the last year. It was Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill, who's not starting. Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young started twice against us. He's not. He's vanquished to the bench. New England, Matt Jones. He's a second-string quarterback in Jacksonville. Indianapolis, Garner Minshew, who will not be starting much longer. Chicago, if you remember, Tyson Bagent, who is nowhere to be seen. Minnesota, Joshua Dobbs, who's doing commercials but not playing. Atlanta had Desmond Ridder start twice, and the New York Giants, Tommy DeVito. Now, on one hand, you say, well, Dennis Allen's had injuries this year. On the other hand, he had probably the 10 worst quarterbacks that have ever played in a season, or teams played, and we went 9-8. So I guess what I'm saying is this next 10 games will define Dennis Allen. I mean, he has the opportunity the next 4 games. Well, okay, let's put it this way. I'm going to say define. This is his last opportunity to demonstrate that he can be a head coach in this league. I understand. But they do have the opportunity to win these next 4 games. These are 4 beatable teams, and if they're going to make the move, it is now or never. Because if they'd have come out anything less than 3-1, you can pretty much, the season's not going to be a playoff season. And you have teams that the Chargers are okay. They're average. You got the Panthers, you got the Falcons, and the Browns, and they're all very beatable. You got the Falcons at home. So if Dennis Allen is going to make a claim that he should be the head coach of New Orleans Saints, he's got to do it in the next 4 games. If they come out anything less than 3-1, then the season is. I understand. Fantastic.
Navy just got beat by Notre Dame, and so they've got a couple of games left in their schedule, and they could end up being at the top of the conference. It could be kind of fun. How interesting would that be if Tulane made the playoff scenario at LSU? But
yeah, well, no, I love. Coach John Summerall is the real deal. He is the absolute real deal. We met him originally after he was hired at a luncheon, and we saw him again. He is beyond competent, and he's got a great future. I mean, the only question will be how long will Tulane be able to keep him, and hopefully they'll keep him for a long time. But he is the real deal. He's really 2 plays from being undefeated against Oklahoma and Kansas State, or a couple of calls away. And, they got good talent, but he squeezes every ounce of talent out of them, and they're the real deal. In fact, they may end up, it'd be interesting to see if they end up playing LSU in a bowl game, if LSU doesn't make the playoffs, because I think that's a real, that would be an interesting one. Yeah. That's absolutely so. Kudos. All right, we got about 20 seconds. Any parting shots, Albert?
Secretary of State and the business office wanted to report required, but I don't know if you got time.
No, we got about.
Go to the website, Secretary of State, look under business services, and you will see that. It's so fun that you report, fill out that report.
Okay, so we'll see you in November 24th. Stay tuned for the Saints, and after that, also the Pelicans. See you in a month. Go Saints. All right.